Hey guys, this is Tim back again with another video, and today I thought it might be interesting to do a tutorial on my workflow inside of Houdini and my folder structure that I tend to work with whenever I'm working on a project. So, if you ever worked at a bigger studio, you know, like any bigger studio has a lot of different pipeline tools and like stuff to keep everything running smoothly. So there's a ton of these out there. For example, you have Shotgun, which is used at a lot of bigger studios. So that's basically a combination of so you have a website where you can track your shots, you can assign shots to whoever does what. You have a whole bunch of pipeline tools inside your program. So let's say Maya, Houdini, whatever, to like publish assets, load assets, whatever. And there's multiple tools like this. You have Avalon, which is an open source one. For example, Colorbleed develops on this along with a lot of other studios and individuals. You have F-Track, which is also something like similar to Shotgun, I guess. You have Prism Pipeline, for example, which is another open source one developed by a guy, I don't remember his name, but it's open source, and I have tried this as well, and it seems to work pretty well. So this is also definitely worth checking out. But the thing that I have when I'm just working on projects for clients inside of Houdini by myself or in other programs is that whenever I am doing a project, it's usually that I am working by myself on my own system with assets from other people. But of course, I don't work inside of a big studio environment. And what I generally find is that these pipeline tools, they're really great if you're working with bigger teams, because you need all of these checks in terms of like, is this the latest version, etc., etc. But if you're just working by yourself, you don't necessarily need all of that. So what I generally have just my own folder structure, and I have a whole bunch of presets for inside of Houdini. I have my own HDAs for certain stuff. I have some presets for nodes that I use to make stuff easy. And I thought today I would like to show the way I do it. This is by no means the best way to do it. You can download my HDAs and these presets from my website, timvanhelsting.com. They're for Patreon supporters only. Also want to point out that if you want to keep the weekly content and stuff going, like, consider supporting me on Patreon, because Patreon is what makes this whole thing possible. So thanks to all of the Patreon supporters. So anyway, you can download that and you can modify it to your heart's content. I'm just going to show the way I like to work, and I've been modifying this for over the past couple of years, and I constantly tweak it here and there a little bit to the way I think just works best for my uses. But I mean, you can change it any way you want. I mean, I'm just going to show the way I work, and then you can do whatever you want to do. So yeah, let's dive into a little bit in the Houdini tools that I use for managing assets and into the folder structure. So let's start off with like how the folder structures is how the folder structure is sort of set up, and then we'll dive back into Houdini and see how I can work with it. All right, so I always have this folder inside of my work folder. So I just copied it inside of my in my tutorial folder that I'm recording in now. But I generally so I have a preset folder that I just copy for every new project, and it starts off with a project number, and then then it's going to be client name and then project name. So let's say I'm going to make a new folder for this tutorial. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to give it a project name, so project code, so it would be 001. And generally why you kind of want to do that is just because it's easier to keep track of like your different projects, like in order that you're doing them, because your newest project will always be down the bottom if you're doing this. If you're just starting with a name or a client, you can also do that. If you start with client name, then it would be sorted by clients, for example. So you can do that any way you want. I like to do it like this. So let's say so the client. So you would do a client name. So I guess it would be YouTube, and then the name would be VFX folder structure. So it would look something like this. So we can dive into there, and then there's a whole bunch of folders inside of here, which all have a reason why they're named like this. So let me just quickly go through why certain stuff is named a certain way. So I guess maybe start with incoming instead of daily. So incoming would be if you get sent stuff from clients, so like assets or briefing or photos or reference stuff, like anything you get sent from a client, you throw in incoming. So also stuff you download from the internet, like whatever, you just throw it in incoming. So this will just be a collective folder to throw in anything you want. And from this, you're gonna sort it, like from this folder, you're gonna sort it out into other folders. So let's say I have some reference. I first download in here, and then after that I'm gonna like sort it out into reference. Documents, I'm gonna sort them out into documents. So everything will be sorted out that way. So sorting out stuff for into assets, for example. So I have a separate folder for assets. If I go into there, you can see there's different folders for different asset types. So ABC would be Alembic. I guess like now that USD is starting to become a thing, it would make sense to also make a USD folder. I haven't really used USD in production yet, so I don't have it in there, but you can make a USD folder. Backplates. So if you have, for example, camera track, and then you have a backplate that goes like with the shot, or just have a backplate, you're gonna do the backplates in there. Camera tracks will be in here, just exported cameras. In Geo, I put all of my BGO and OBJ files and stuff. HDRI will be HDRI, and textures will be textures, and VDP will be VDP. And this is also where I am going to export my own assets that I make, which will be used in like multiple shots, for example, which we'll get back later when we dive back into Houdini. But let's say if you get some models from a client into incoming, you're gonna split them out. So let's say it's gonna be Alembic, so you're gonna put them in here and then put them in like proper folders for like whatever they are. So make sure to name your stuff. So you're gonna split that out. So in 3D, this is gonna be where you're gonna work in. So I majorly work in Houdini, and you can set this up different ways. So I have it set up to first start with software, with the software folders, and inside of here I would make shot numbers. So I always have an R&D folder, and the R&D folder will be just for like testing different stuff. So if I'm just gonna like experiment and not work on an actual shot yet, I'm gonna do everything in there, and then everything I'll do in the R&D scene, I'll put them into the actual shot scene and work from there. But let's say we have a shot. So let's say we have shot 010, shot 020. So you would just put shots in here like this. So this will be your R&D folder, and these will be the shot numbers. You could also make your shots in here, and then have for each shot have like the software folder, which would make more sense if you are working like with a lot of different packages at once, or if you're like with a bigger group of people working in this same folder structure, then it might make more sense to do it that way. That's also the way Shotgun handles it, for example. So you'd have a shot number, and then inside of there would be all of the individual folders. I just prefer to do it this way because I majorly just work in Houdini, so it just makes more sense for me to do it this way. But I can configure it any way I want, like I mentioned, like depending on the project as well. So that's going to be the 3D where I do whatever. Then there's going to be a folder for comp, so either After Effects, Fusion, or Nuke, wherever you comp in. Like I just generally, if I comp, it's usually After Effects. I'm trying to do more in Fusion, but like I don't really comp that often anymore. So, but if I comp, it's going to be in there. Edit, it's going to be Premiere or wherever you. So I have a template for that with like bins and stuff in it. Also, there's like in the After Effects thing, there's it's a template file as well, which has like folders inside of After Effects as well, with like where your 3D renders go and whatever. So Premiere has that as well. If you download this, you can look into that yourself. I don't want to go too much into that. And so let's say, and renders go into the render folder. And again, like we're gonna go into Houdini in a bit, and all of the locations for that will be sort of, well, like for the 3D renders at least, will automatically get into this folder with these presets, but I'll show you that in a bit. But let's say 3D. So 3D will go in there, comp will go in here, and edit will go in here. So all of your renders will go in there. And then anything then let's say you generate flipbooks and stuff, you probably put them in dailies. So all your outputs you're gonna put in dailies, and everything you're gonna send to the client will go in outgoing, and that would be the current date. So let's say, so 2020, 02, and 18. That's when I'm recording this. So, and then you put it in here, and then after a while you're gonna have a whole. Why is it? Did it make a shortcut? I did that accidentally, I think. So you're gonna have a whole like bunch of folders here from every date, and it's gonna make it easier to also, like when you reference it back to your emails that you send to client, to find stuff back. And dailies will just be, if you're doing stuff with a team, you can just put stuff in there to like have your daily review stuff or your own things, and outgoing will just be the stuff that's gonna go to the clients. So yeah, that's like just the folder structure that I use for projects. Now let's dive into Houdini and let's show how I have certain presets that will like generate assets, load assets, and put them automatically in the correct folders and stuff. So let's dive into Houdini. All right, so we're inside of Houdini, and I have a couple of HDAs that I use to set up my work. So there's one asset that I always use in the beginning of any scene. So if I type TVH, so just my initials, in every HDA that I make for myself, I just append these initials. So then it's easy to find. So it's called TVH shot setup. So this sets up some parameters for a specific shot. So let's save our Houdini file first. And so let's go to where are we gonna go? Tutorials 2020, VFX folder structure, and then we're gonna go to HIP 3D and Houdini. Let's put it into let's call this thing, I guess, tutorial or something. Let's make a folder tutorial, and then tutorial files V001, always version. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna set my project, and you also need to set my project. I need to set it to the HIP location. Let's go up. So that's important. So set that to the HIP location. I'm gonna explain a little bit why later. Anyway, so we have this thing set up. Now this thing has a couple of parameters that it wants. So it has project root. So that will be the root of my project directory. So I'm gonna paste that in here, and it needs forward slashes. I'm gonna replace all of these slashes with forward slashes. For some reason, like a lot of the stuff doesn't work if it keeps the backward slashes. Houdini just doesn't like that. So just gonna change all of that. All right. So now this will set up a parameter called $root. Okay, so project name, call it VFX tutorial, I guess. And so that's going to be the name of the project that we're working on right now. And the shot will be the shot name, basically. So I guess YouTube, let's call it YouTube. All right, so let's save. And this will set up a couple of parameters. So I'm going to demonstrate that by just making an empty geo node and type file. Okay, so let's say now if I type $root, so okay, I have a middle mouse. So this will go to the folder structure. $shot will be YouTube, because that's the YouTube thing. And dollar project. We'll go to the project. So, okay, so the reason why, So the reason why we set this up the way that we do is because right now we can have, so we have our dollar job set at our hip location, but we also have a root and a project name to reference to another location on disk. So like our work caches can now go to dollar job, but our assets that we need to export in order to use later, we can export those to another location, which we can reference to these dollar root, dollar shot, and dollar project locations. And there's also you can use a cache drive. So I don't really I used to have a separate NVMe cache drive that I was using. Right now I'm not using that because I built a new file storage server, which is quite fast. So I'm just generally working just from within there. But let's say for now, we're just gonna put it to one of my drives, which is like my my configuration drive, for example, which is also a network drive. But let's put the cache drive to that one for now. So I can show you the caching file like stuff later. So now this whole project is set up. And so this is something you're just going to do whenever you start something. And if you're just going to do R&D, just fill it anyway and then just put it to being R&D. So at least it's like set up to work properly, but it's going to be quite fast. All right, so now let's make a quick simple scene and then show you how the tools work. All right, so I guess let's do a very simple rigid body simulation. Let's make a ground plane like this. Let's make a camera. All right, let's make a pig. Let's move the pig up a little bit. Let's shatter it. Let's maybe do a little bit more pieces. All right. Beautiful. All right, so I guess we can. Let's add it into our simulation because that might actually help because or else nothing is going to happen, of course. All right, so we have this pig, and maybe let's unpack it now so it has some material. So it already has a material, but so we can sort of see the material in the viewport. All right, so we have this thing. Okay, now let's say we want to cache this out. So we can go in here. And now let's say we want to cache this. Maybe we want to cache it out before we do the unpacking. Let's put a file cache. All right, so you see it looks a little bit different than your file. Well, than your file cache might do because I have it set up as a with a permanent default. But if I press the cogwheel, you can see there's different things set up. There's one setup for cache drive, and there's one setup for just dollar job. So what this will do is it has just a preset to go to cache to my dollar job. So where my job is set, so that's where my hip file is. And then it's gonna go into the geo folder, and then it's gonna go to the name, have a version. So let's call it Piggy Fall, something like that. And let's maybe cache, maybe like 120 frames or something. So let's press save to disk. Press load. You can see if we go in here. So where did it go? So let's go up a few levels. All right, so we have our tutorial thing, geo, piggy fall, v1, and then we have our thing there. So if we were to make this v2 and we press save, then there would be a v2. So that's with just regular, just if we're just gonna cache to our dollar job. Now let's say we want to cache to our cache drive. Let's say you have an internal NVMe drive for like fast caches. We could put this to the cache drive. You can see the cache variable now is set to $cache and then /project. Probably we also want to do $shot. And let's call it, I guess, Piggy. And now let's also make it 120 frames. And let's save. Okay. Now let's go to this file. So you can see on my configuration, like on my Y drive, there's now a folder with VFX tutorial, as a project, YouTube, Geo, Piggy, V1, and there's the cache. And because we are the reason why we're doing this with these variables is because, of course, if you're running multiple projects, you kind of want it to be organized within the proper folder structure. So this will just make sure that it's going to go to the correct drive. So gonna go to this project and then to this shot. So this way you're sure that, well, it will end up in the correct location. So you can easily, well, put it either to a cache drive or to your work drive. So very simple. So this works similarly with if I were to put in Rob geometry output, you can see $job, similar way of working. All right, so I have this cached. Now let's say I am very happy with this result, like this big. I want to sort of publish this to be used in another scene. So then it would need to go into, let's go back to where we were. So not in the Y drive. Right, so then it would need to go into assets, right? Into Alembic, because that's where we put our assets. Right, so if we put Rob Alembic output, let's connect the geo thing, and then let's go to put it to the preset publish. So this is gonna go to root assets ABC. So again, like we defined $root in here. So this is why we use $job in one place and then $root for another thing. So I call it Piggy drop. It's gonna be .abc, and let's do 120 frames again. Let's save to disk. Right, so it saved it out. Let's go into assets, ABC, and you can see Piggy drop is there, V1, and then Piggy drop.abc is there. So now we have something to easily refer back to if we want to load it. So we could load this. So if we put down an Alembic, I could go to, I guess you could also make a preset for the loading location. I haven't really done that, but you can do that as well. So now it would load, if I load it, and it's doing the, so I didn't set it up completely properly because it's like it's falling. Not sure what's up with the transform. Oh yeah, I transformed the pig up, of course. So let's do this in another node. So that's all right. Let's hide our other stuff. All right, so now this is loading our Alembic, and I'll probably make a preset for just maybe loading this as well. Now that I'm thinking about this, so I'll probably include that in a download. Anyway, so now we're like we made a new scene maybe, and we loaded this pig in here, and maybe like unpack it. So okay, now we have this pig. Now, maybe we want to like generate a flipbook based on this thing that we made, right? So let's do a flipbook, and let's say we have maybe a grid that we want to have underneath this thing. Oh, let's make these like, let's say that these are our render nodes, I guess. Let's call this RNDR pig, and that's what I generally do as I call stuff RNDR, and then because then it's easy to know which will be your render nodes. Probably want to scale this up. Okay, so now maybe we want to do a flipbook. So we have a camera thing like that. Okay, let's say we want to do a flipbook. Okay, so I have an HDA for that. So there's also you don't necessarily have to use the HDA. You could also use an OpenGL ROP. So I have an OpenGL ROP as well. I don't even have the preset saved for that. Anyway, so you could save a preset for that, but I have an HDA. I thought that I still had it saved. But if you go to, so if I'm gonna make a topnet, or I could do it in here as well. I'm gonna make a topnet and I guess call it flipbooks. and then go in there. I'm gonna type TVH in here. You can see TVH flipbook generate. So this is an HDA that I made, which generates flipbooks. So under the hood, this also just uses the OpenGL ROP, but what this will do is will generate an image sequence, but also an MP4 file for just easy viewing of like daily, so you don't have to do it in media encoder or something. So by default, this is going to go to $job / flipbook. We could also say that we might want to put this into dailies or something. Let's say we want to put it into dailies. So I guess call it $root / okay, and then maybe we want to do today's date. Okay, so let's say we're going to export this directly to dailies. Probably I would just export it to my $job folder and then move the MP4 to the dailies folder. But like just to show that it's like you can manage it any way you want, and call it Piggy Fall. It's going to be version 1. Set up with this, and you have all of these settings here for like which objects do I want to include. So let's say instead, like it's set up to for candidate objects, if it's with the start, will like all of the objects that will be visible will be flipbooked. But let's say that I only want to force objects that have RNDR underscore star. So those will be the grid and the pig. So then it doesn't matter what I have turned on. So let's say I could have a squab in here as well, and this won't be flipbooked. I can demonstrate that if you want. So let's put down the squab and let's put it randomly in the background somewhere. So you will know that how that will work. Anyway, so this one, like it will only export this pig and the ground plane. So just to demonstrate. So this will be my flipbook. I mean, we could call this, I guess, flipping piggies. I guess something like that. All right, so now let's cook this thing. So the way you can cook it is pressing Shift V. It needs to save. So and then we're gonna wait for a little bit, and Tops generally takes a little bit of time to start up. It's because Tops needs to start up Houdini in the background in order to run it. So it's the same if you do like save to disk in background, and it also needs to start up a Houdini instance in the background. So it generally takes a little bit of time depending on your Houdini configuration as well. For example, I have Houdini set up to also load some stuff from my network drives. So that will take a little bit more time to start up because Houdini needs to check out some stuff. By the way, in order for this thing to work, it's already working, but I'm just going to explain something in the meantime. You need to have ImageMagick installed, and you need to have FFmpeg installed. So these are free programs you can download. And then you need to point it to the direction. I will put links in the description to where you can download these, but make sure you need to put in your Houdini.environment file. You need to put pdg underscore ImageMagick equals, and then the path to ImageMagick, and then pdg underscore FFmpeg, and put it to the location of FFmpeg. Okay, so you can see that it's finished. And now we can go to our folder here, and let's go to folder structure. Let's go to the correct folder. Let's go to dailies. So you can see it generated a folder in here called dailies, Piggy Fall 1, so version 1. And there's 2 folders in there. It's going to have the image sequence. So it's going to be the entire image sequence. And it's also going to have an MP4. So that's what ImageMagick and stuff is used for. So you can see we have we have a flipbook of our pig falling, and the squab is nowhere to be seen because we didn't include it. If we wanted to include it, as let's say we could make it a version 2, and we could say candidate objects squab. Let's save, and then let's cook it again. So now it's gonna do it again. We need to wait for a little bit more. I'm gonna make a version 2, and the squab will also be there. So let's wait for that a little bit. I'm gonna take another sip of my coffee. And in the meantime, while we wait, you can smash the like button, and you can hit the bell icon. Well, subscribe and hit the bell icon, because that really helps out. Well, if you like, it helps out the YouTube algorithm, and by subscribing, you'll be notified whenever I put out more videos. Because as I mentioned before, I really want to grow out YouTube and Patreon. And I kind of want to try to I want to try to keep up this weekly release schedule, but that's not possible if I don't have enough Patreon supporters and if my YouTube videos don't get enough views. So if you want to subscribe on Patreon as well, would really help out, and then you can download these files as well. So anyway, let's go. So now it's finished cooking, and I am done shilling my website. Anyway, so there's Piggyfall 2 now, and you can see there's another MP4, and if we press play, and you can see now the thing is in the background. So yeah, so that's how you do a flipbook. Okay, now let's say like everything is approved and we want this thing to render, like we need to render this thing. So let's show how we can do that. So I use Redshift. You can use any render engine you want, of course, but let's do a just a Redshift material. Just throw something on the pig and we're gonna render, I guess, because right now it has the default material thing on it. So I'm gonna clean this so I don't have the default material on there. Let's put this material on there so it at least has something. Let's make it gold, and let's make the Redshift tab again. Remove the okay. Yeah, it was complaining. I reinstalled Houdini because I had some problems with my environment file, so I had to. That's probably where the error came from. So I'm gonna put down a Redshift Lite. Okay, now let's say so we have let's view my render view, and let's press render. And then after that, we're gonna make so we're gonna get a Redshift drop now, and then we're gonna make a render. So this is a beautiful falling golden pig. Is perfect and everything I wanted out of life. Right, so if we go to the out for the Redshift, and we see we have the IPR thing and the ROP. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Right, so there's also presets for this. Let's put this to render settings, and you can see it's set to $root, render, blah, 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 blah. Let's also make an AOV. The Redshift AOV thing is actually quite cool because there used to be an issue where okay, so if you save presets, so you can save preset with this, it will save a preset for the entire configuration of this node. So let's say in a future Redshift build, some parameters change, it will revert back to the old configuration and stuff will break. I've had problems where I was for example, I couldn't get stuff submitted to Gridmarket because I was using presets and I couldn't figure out what it was, but it ended up being that thing. So when I saw in the FreeRay beta that I had a separate AOV node, I proposed this inside of the Redshift forums, and I actually made a build a week later or 2 weeks later with this ROP. And this is super cool thing. So anyway, so you can set your AOVs up with this thing. So what you will do is you go to your Redshift ROP, and you can go to AOV, and you can put your ROP in there. So then it will load AOVs from this thing. So you can make AOVs in here, but I have a preset for my AOVs. So just with all of the basic AOVs, you can see it loads all of the basic AOVs. Okay, now let's say I want to render something. So I have my thing here, and let's say this is my final thing, and I need to, well, not the final thing, but I need to get this rendered. So yeah, I guess let's render it. So it's set up to $root. Again, it's a root direction, render, 3D, and shot. So let's call it Piggyfall. And then it's just render because this is just set up with some basic stuff. So yeah, just brute force, radiance, point cloud, blah blah blah. Just the default setting. Well, not the default, but the general settings that you use. So let's say we press render to disk. Wow, that's our beautiful render again. All right, so it rendered that whole thing. Now, sorry. So it rendered that whole thing. Now we go to we can go to our VFX folder structure, render, 3D, YouTube, Piggyfall 1, and you see the Cryptomatte and the regular render there. So we can open it, and we have our render. Beautiful. So yeah, that's just so your renders will also go to the correct folder. So Like with all of these things, you can see how stuff will just end up in the correct place, and this just saves in general just a whole bunch of time to be able like to do stuff. Um, so I also use Deadline myself, so I don't really want to get too much into Deadline, but for example, you have some Deadline ROPs, and Deadline will allow you to submit stuff to your Deadline repository, and then your slave will start rendering it. So for example, I can demo that if you want. So let's open up my repository. Now let's say I want to render a couple of frames. Let's put this to, I want to render like 9 frames. Let's GPUs per task, frames per task. Where's the thing? Frames per task 3, and submit to Houdini scene. So that's also a thing why you want to use, always want to use $job and not $hip, because Deadline will submit the HIP file, so the HIP file won't be in the same location. So if you don't use $job or like the custom variables that I'm using, this won't work. But like now, let's say I can say use submit job, so we have just random crap going on here. So let's say I can just press submit to Deadline, and now it should appear here any moment now. So let's wait for a little bit. All right, so there it is. For some reason, the first frame decides to wait, I already know what's going on here. Okay, so yeah, I updated my Houdini build. So let's go to configure plugins. So this is not set up because I just upgraded to the most recent production build, and then you also need to change the production build for Houdini inside of your repository. So that would be 348. Let's try that again. It's gonna be 348. 348, and let's press OK, and let's maybe pause this and then start it again, and then it should probably start rendering correctly. All right, so let's resume the job. Okay, waiting to start. There we go. Yeah, so now it will start rendering. So you can see it's just rendering those. So now if I go to this, it will probably in a little bit frames will start to appear. Not yet. So close, yet so far. I am ASMR Tim. Hello. So it's still going. So it's gonna take a little bit longer than before because yeah, there you see. Okay, so frames will start appearing. So anyway, that's done with Deadline. Oh, that's my recording thing. So yeah, so that's the entire workflow basically. So again, I also have presets for like all of the other stuff, like After Effects template, Premiere template, all of like the whole thing you saw right now can be downloaded on my website. Right, so the thing you downloaded, if you just make a preset folder inside of your Houdini 18 folder, and you go in there and you just copy the preset folders in there, you will have the presets from the folder, and the entire folder structure will be there. The so this thing, the shot setup thing will be there. Flipbook generator will be there. Keep in mind that these are Houdini Indie HTAs. So if you're on FX, you probably need to rebuild them, which can be they're quite easy to make. I mean, this thing is just a couple of things with like some scripts in there, and the flipbook generator is also quite easy, because if you're gonna load these into FX, your FX license will downgrade to Indie, because I am on Indie. So yeah, that's the entire thing. So I want to thank you for watching. If you like this video, consider supporting on Patreon, because that really helps out the channel, because I really need to grow the channel if I want to keep up the pace of like rolling out videos every week. So I put this entire year to start making more videos with the idea that might get sustainable in the long run to live off of that. So consider supporting if you want to support the channel that way. Also, make sure to hit the thumbs up. That really helps out the YouTube algorithm and gets my stuff recommended to more people. And yeah, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to be notified whenever I put out new videos. So I generally upload every week. on Monday. So yeah, that was the entire video, guys. I really hope you learned something. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have any suggestions, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.